On the other hand, what do you love about America?
Somebody said that your wife could be having a baby and you both drove a vehicle to a restaurant. And because she's having the baby, you're going to rush her to the hospital. But you drove your Corvette. And they said that in most places in the United States, you could walk into a restaurant, throw your keys on the table in front of somebody and say, well, you watch my Corvette, I got to take my wife to the hospital. And they would do it. Because basically Americans are good people. And and I told my friends in Prague, I said, they were wanting to come. They'd never been here before. And I said, well, I know your English is not that great, a lot better than my Czech, but I said, one thing you don't have to worry about in the United States is that if you give somebody a $20 bill because you're buying something, they're going to give you your change. You don't have to count it. They're not going to try to rip you off that way. You know, the majority of people do an honest business. And what I was going to refer to earlier about my epiphany when I had my first heart surgery. In the Bible it says we are to love one another as we love ourselves. And I think a lot of people take that to mean that, number one, we're all kind of selfish and we should do more for others. And to some degree that's true. But the way I read it, or the way it hit me, was love others as you love yourself, as you're in the process of loving yourself. So we both have to learn how to love other people, and we have to learn how to love ourselves, because we tend to be pretty self-destructive lots of times. And the fact that evil exists in mankind is always going to create issues. You may think you're the best person on earth, but there's some evil lurking around somewhere. But what I found is that this applies very well to the free enterprise system. So when you see a lot of people talking about, social justice and, terrible capitalism and all this kind of stuff, if we were to live simpler lives, and as you dealt with people, I provide you a service or a good, and it has a certain value. And I am doing that to serve others. Profit is not a bad thing, because part of loving others and serving others is also loving yourself and serving you and your own family. So all we really have to do is determine what the values are of each person's service and goods, and then trade accordingly. We can't all be, neurosurgeons. But at the same time, there is no reason why business can't be good business. And in the United States, there's probably a lot more opportunity for people to do small business. And small business is the backbone of America, in my opinion. It's how neighborhoods stay congealed. It's how we do serve each other, because we can't be all things all the time to everyone, everywhere, or to yourself. You need other people, and other people need you. And as long as you realize that you are serving them, it's not you're not supposed to try to gouge them or and get it over on them. Your purpose on earth is to serve one another, but it is also to love yourself and love others. So you can't neglect one for the other. You can't love yourself more than the service that you provide, because then you're gouging or you're greedy. And you can't ask somebody to do something for less than what it's worth, because then you're doing the same thing. You're being greedy in the other direction. But overall, I think that Americans understand the value of labor and work and goods and services. And often I'll drive down the road and I'll look at all these houses, trailers, little houses, big houses, mansions, whatever, one right after the other. And then as I drive through a town, I look at the businesses. What is this guy doing? Oh, or he's selling bar stools. Everybody's doing something. And it's awesome that we are able to do it.
I'd say the people. Similar to what he said, that the people here, I've met a lot of very genuine, very good-hearted people. And And I mean, I have traveled abroad and also definitely met good people, but I think overall, not everybody. We definitely have some very not good people here, but for the most part, people do try to do good and are good. So I appreciate that about it. And it's beautiful. I've lived in a lot of places and it's nice here.
I think in Europe they understand that their space and their countries are limited. So everything they do for a much longer view. So like buildings and stuff in Prague or last 300 years, no problem. The United States, we're so big and we have so many resources, we don't really worry about it. So we throw up houses that really only stand for 30 years, 40 years, something like that, and then they start to fall apart. No problem, we'll build another one. You know, and it's that little bit of mentality that has gotten us into a lot of trouble.
Keeps the jobs, you know.
Yeah, oh
going.
yeah. Gotta keep those people building houses.
That's right. The last question I have is if you have any thoughts on my project, the 50-year plan.
I think it sounds really cool up until the point where you meet somebody who you fall in love with, and then they're going to want to settle down and have babies, and then you become a host, and then you get workaway people to come help you.
There you go. That's the alternative.
That's your exit strategy if you have to have one.
If it happens.
Yeah.
Sure.
But at the same time, I think it's kind of interesting. We don't really think about planning 50 years out. You know, I don't have a plan after 3 months. So, you know, I think that shows some wisdom. And at the same time, I would encourage you to look at the two. I see them as parallels. What you're doing on this side of the equation and what they're doing on that side, and how you might steer yourself to be able to be both, because then you'll understand it better. You know, we don't want to get to the point where we say, oh, well, those people are so materialistic, they sacrificed, you know, night and day in order to buy a piece of land with a house on it. That's important stuff. And I don't want to judge anybody from that regard. I'm not judging you that what you're doing is right or wrong. But I think that to understand that it does require some commitment to permanence. Probably one thing I find right now in my life, I'm 63, but I don't really have any place that I call home. So, you know, I may go out at 35 and, you know, explore and have her adventures and do everything. But eventually I would like for her to come home to just visit and, you know, hang out, know she's got a home base. But we don't have a home base. So that's a little bit of
The dragon.
well, the dragons, yeah. But there's a little bit of a hole there in my gut that I feel like, maybe I left something behind, or maybe I should have, you know, there's a lot of things that changed. You know, I did get married and I did build a house and I did own land and I didn't have any debt. And I accomplished all that, but then things went south. My wife was mentally ill and all that blew up. It didn't mean my life came to an end, but that whole dream set did. So you never know how it's going to throw, you know, life's going to throw different pitches at you. And sometimes you knock them out of the park, and sometimes they knock you right in the side of the head. Just got to keep going.
I'm a fan of the 50-year plan. Like he said, I think that's very interesting to have a plan for that long, which is amazing. But at the same time, like, I couldn't imagine ever doing anything that, like, I guess maybe a person I can commit to for that long. But Haven't found them yet. But
I want to know what the last state is going to be.
Iowa.
Iowa.
And where I started.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Interesting.
But you know, just I think that's really awesome that you've set forth that goal, and that's me. And I think it's a really cool way to see everything. Like when I realized that I couldn't, at least currently, go internationally, you know, like part of me that struck a heartstring. Like I really wanted to do that. But at the same time, I was like, well, shoot, I could just travel around. I mean, I've been a lot of places in the United States, but heck, I've never been to half the places we're going here. And there's so much to see and so many different people to meet and different things to experience. I mean, we've met people here that are not from this country, you know, and I just like interacting with people in that way. So I think you'll get tons and tons of exposure to all that, even staying within the United States.
Right.
And I don't think you just normally just go out and do that like throughout your life. You don't just meet all these people from all over the place because you're kind of, I don't know. One of the things I put in my work away is like, this world's too big to stay in one place. And I feel like that's important that people travel. Like I can't imagine people that are from, like, we were driving through some little bitty city and I don't remember what it was, but I was like, I bet these people have never ever left here. And that is like terrifying. But I think it's a great idea, and I'm interested to see it progress.
1 star. See it better.